You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I gotta start with the huge news from Major League Baseball's negotiations with the Players Association to get the 2020 season underway. This is all from Bob Nightingale of USA Today, what I'm going to cite. No 50-50 revenue sharing split was proposed because the union was concerned that revenue sharing would lead to the introduction of a salary cap in future negotiations, while being wary of further pay reductions, including the possibility of a percentage of their salaries being placed in escrow. Now, every other league has revenue sharing. Seriously. The NHL does, the NFL does, the NBA does, the MLB doesn't. The MLB is also the only league to not have a salary cap. So the Players Association has always thought that they can get these big contracts, they really don't need revenue sharing. With revenue sharing comes pay reductions. I understand that. But we're living in a time where there's not a lot of money to go around. I mean, how many frivolous purchases have you made in the past 2 months? I can tell you that I haven't made that many. I think the union was kind of dumb to outright reject revenue sharing, but I understand their point of it may become a precedent for other hits to their salaries. I understand that. The new proposal includes a sliding scale of compensation, guaranteeing players a percentage of their salary during different intervals of the season, while also including a larger share of postseason money. The players earning the highest salaries would be taking the biggest cuts, while those earning the least amount of money would receive most of their guaranteed salaries, with the union determining the exact percentage splits. I gotta tell you, that sounds really fair to me. But the union doesn't like it. The union's point is that these guys already took a pay cut. They don't want to take another one. Well, newsflash, bright light. The reason that you took a pay cut was because we knew there was going to be a shortened season. If you had played all 162 games, do you really think you'd have taken a pay cut? Like, let's say the season had just been pushed back a month. And everything gets pushed back a month. The World Series ends in late November. The Stanley Cup and NBA Finals end in July. And football is unaffected because it starts in September. Do you really think they'd have pushed for that reduction? The reason you took a pay cut was because you knew there would be a shortened season. Think about it this way. At my old job, when I worked 30 hours a week, I made X amount of money. If I worked 15 hours the next week, I earned half of X. Of course, give these guys half their money. Of course. They should be taking a pay cut. Now, I understand that it's hard to sympathize with MLB owners. And I understand where the players are coming from. You're expecting us to sacrifice? Well, the owners need to sacrifice too. And they need to pay us. We signed a contract to get paid. I don't know the exact language that's in any given contract. And I don't know if insurance would cover any of it. I know they don't cover acts of God. I don't even know if this would be considered an act of God. So if there's nothing in a contract that stipulates for this type of situation, okay, fine. Then we go into some dicey areas. And maybe this is something that should have been thought about. You know, it's kind of funny to me that we've never had a plan in place for something like this. I mean, you can tell me that we never thought something like this would happen. Well, there are sports leagues that have contingency plans for the unlikeliest of situations. In the NBA, there is something called a disaster draft, which basically means if there's a plane crash that kills a certain amount of members of a basketball team, that team can pick from existing players on other teams' rosters. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but there is that framework in place. That has never happened, but that is something that exists. It is in the bylaws. The fact that there's never been anything written pertaining to this, even some never used line in a contract or the CBA, that's really weird to me. You know, I understand that the players want to get paid. And I'm all for them getting paid. If they signed a contract, they should get paid. But, having said that, if you're only doing half the work, you should get half the salary. Garrett Cole is making $36 million this year. If he pitches in half the starts that the Yankees expected him to, 18 mil. I understand that doesn't cover injuries. And I'm not saying that we should take money away because of injuries or off days or something like that. But when it comes to games being removed from the schedule, if it's a certain amount, like we have here, yeah, the players should get their salaries cut. Now maybe there's a compromise that can be reached. Instead of the players getting all the money up front, maybe some would take a deferred salary. I'm not sure how the owners would feel about that, because I know that the Mets still hate paying Bobby Bonilla. Maybe there's some players that would be willing to say, okay, fine, I'll take half my salary, but you have to give the other half to food banks in the home market. I have no problem with that. And they're all heroes afterwards. The main point is, a compromise needs to be reached. We're getting really close to doomsday. There's been an artificial deadline set of June 1st, or maybe even a little bit after that, for the players to get ready for the coming season. We're nearing that date. It's May 27th. If we don't have something agreed to quickly, like the NHL does, and it seems like the NBPA is going to very quickly, there will be no baseball this year. Now, my point for not having baseball this year was, if you make a mockery of the game, don't have it. But this is something different. This is the players saying, we want more money. And again, I'm all for players getting as much money as they can. If someone offered me a ridiculous amount of money to play baseball for a certain team, I would take it. No question. No one is begrudging the players for wanting as much money as they can get. But they're being penny smart and pound foolish. Major League Baseball cannot survive a canceled season. The NHL is going to have a tough time with it. Major League Baseball just can't. It kills me to say this because baseball is my favorite sport, but it's a dying sport. I look around Yankee Stadium and I don't see a lot of fathers and sons, or mothers and sons, or fathers and daughters, or moms and daughters. I see people in their 20s and 30s going, not little kids. It's not a sport that's popular with the younger generation. That generation is not going to turn baseball back on in 2021 after not seeing it in 2020. They have a short attention span as it is. You think they're going to remember something that happened 2 years ago? And they'll want to go back to seeing that team? I don't think so. The owners aren't without blame here either, though. I understand that it is impossible to feel sympathy for billionaires. But the simple fact is they are losing money. Alright, you can bring up however much money they made last year. You know what? I can make the argument that they spent it all. What people don't realize is that while the arena workers are temps and they're not getting paid yearly, the players are. The full-time employees are. The managers, the coaches, the scouts, they are being paid yearly. Not half a year. So you're constantly spending money. You know, this idea that the owners have enough money in the bank to pay everyone so that everyone's happy, that doesn't work. That nest egg is going to run dry really quickly. You know, it's funny, we keep seeing the headlines of the scouts are being furloughed and all these minor league players are being released. The simple fact is the owners don't have the money for it. This isn't something like you have games going on so you can make money if you put a good team out there. No! The New York Yankees are losing money right now, just like the Baltimore Orioles are losing money. The Washington Nationals are losing money, just like the Miami Marlins are losing money. And I understand that the players are eating into their savings. They're not making money either. I get that. But the players don't have as many obligations as the owners. You know, think about it. Where do you draw the line if you're an MLB owner for who gets paid? If you're a player, you get paid, obviously. If you're a major league manager, you get paid. If you're a major league coach, you get paid. Okay, but what about the scouts? What about the training staff? What about the ticket reps? What about the marketing guys, the sales guys, the minor leaguers, the minor league coaches? There's not enough money to go around. The players just have to take care of themselves and their family. I understand that to live on your savings for a year is an impossible ask. But it's easier for some players like a Mike Trout or a Bryce Harper or a Giancarlo Stanton. Certainly not a guy like Gio Urshela or even Jeff McNeil, because he hasn't gotten his big boy contract yet. I understand the slippery slope argument that the Players Association is saying. They don't want the revenue sharing because that's going to be a slippery slope. I'm with you there. Although, candidly, I don't understand what they have against their salaries going in escrow. I mean, that could be like a retirement plan or something. So you're constantly getting income as you retire? That actually sounds like a good idea. And I understand that if you take a pay cut for this because you're playing less games, what does this mean if you're injured? Or if you have to take a few days off here and there? I get that it's a slippery slope, but it's obvious that this is going to be just a one-time thing, hopefully. Hopefully there's not another virus that comes around soon. I mean, there's talks about a second wave. Can you imagine if there's a second wave of this virus? Oh my god. I can just imagine sports restarting and then shutting back down. Holy moly. But if there's something written in the language that says this is just for the COVID-19 pandemic, it should be used for nothing else, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. All in all, I understand where the owners are coming from here. I understand where the players are coming from, but I think they're going to have to give a little here. I'm siding more with the owners than I am the players. And I understand that you probably disagree with that. You're saying, Jacob, how can you feel sympathy for billionaire owners? I'm with you there. I understand that they're billionaires and they can't cry poverty. But I'm willing to admit that they're losing money. And to pay someone an amount that's not equal to the work they're doing, unless it's for an injury or just a day off, I think that's perfectly reasonable. But one thing I will say is, and I'm sure that you'll agree with me here, both sides are going to need to make a bunch of concessions to get this season off the ground. The owners should be expected to do that, and the players should be expected to do that. It's unfair to ask the players to make all the sacrifices. The owners do need to make some sacrifices. I don't know exactly what that would be, but both sides are going to need to come together quickly for the future of this game, because it will not recover from a canceled season. Moving on now to the NHL, and this is from Gary Bettman's televised address that was on NBCSN. This stuff is also available on NHL.com. There's a lot to break down. They did the draft lottery in an incredibly complicated way that I'm not even sure I understand, but I'll try to break it down as best I can. I think I have a decent handle on it, but I'll start with the return to play. Early next month, teams can return to home facilities for voluntary training in small groups. No earlier than July 1st, there will be a formal training camp. A hub city for each conference will be used. The hub cities will have hotels, an arena, obviously, practice facilities, and transportation. Each team can only bring 50 people. So you're going to have the players, the coaches, the trainers, maybe not even the GM. I mean, quite frankly, if you're not essential, you're probably going to stay home. These hub cities will be two of Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Minnesota's Twin Cities, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver. This wasn't said during Bettman's address, but I think it's fair to assume that you're going to have one Eastern Conference city and one Western Conference city. Like, you're not going to have Pittsburgh and Toronto, just like you're not going to have Edmonton and Las Vegas. Speaking of Edmonton, I'm not sure how Canada can work for this. I mean, realize the border's still shut down. Unless these guys are designated as essential, that's going to be tough. Teams in each conference will be seeded by points percentage. So we are using points percentage here. I wasn't crazy about that. I'm still not crazy about it. I mean, that's a made-up thing. I've never heard it before all of this. We've never used points percentage before. Now we're using it for this. I just don't like it. But I had a feeling it was going to happen, so I can't get too upset over it. The top 4 teams in each conference will participate in intra-conference round-robin tournaments to determine first-round seeding with regular season overtime rules. So the Boston Bruins and St. Louis Blues are not guaranteed to have the top seed. If they go 0 for 3 in their tournaments, they're going to end up with the 4 seed. I don't like that. I don't think that that should be linked to seeding. I think it should be linked to exhibition games, but I understand you want those teams to play meaningful hockey. Again, I'm not crazy about it, but I kind of had a feeling it was going to happen, so I can't get too upset over it. The remaining 8 teams in each conference will play best-of-5 series to get into the first round under playoff overtime rules. So we're having 12 teams in the quote-unquote playoffs. If you want to call the play-in round the playoffs, I guess you can. I mean, it's not the regular season. Bettman said that the regular season was ended, so yeah, this is probably the playoffs. So the Islanders made the playoffs! Yeah! I didn't think they would do it! But so did the Rangers, and the Coyotes, and the Blackhawks. I'm not sure how to feel about that. You know, one thing I'll say, and just let me be biased here for a minute, I'm kind of glad they're using points percentage for seeding, because the Islanders have the 7th seed. They were the 9th seed. If we were just going by points, they were the 9th seed. Now they're the 7th. That's pretty cool. We're not sure if a bracket or reseeding will be used. I like the idea of a reseeding, but not after each round. There's no reason to do it after each round. Just do it after the qualifying round. If the 12 seed advances, have that team play the top seed. Have the 11 seed play the 2 seed, etc., etc. That's the way we've always done it. Don't do a fixed bracket where that doesn't happen. Have a fixed bracket for after the first round. But for the purposes of scheduling the first round, no. Have a reseeding to be done after the qualifying round. The first and second rounds will either be best of 5 or best of 7. I hope it's best of 5 because I don't want hockey to stretch on too much. You know, I just don't like the idea of hockey in September. Again, the players aren't going to have enough time to recover for next season. I mean, Bettman said that they're going to try to do next season as normal. You're not going to do that if you're ending in September. And Bettman said early fall. That's September. If you end in mid-August, you can get it done. It would just be kind of tough, but theoretically it could be done. You may have to cancel the All-Star game to cram in some games and give the players some extra off days with games off or more scheduled breaks, but theoretically, it could be done. I don't see it being done if the season ends in September. The Conference and Stanley Cup Finals will be best of 7. I have no problem with that. You want the Conference Finals and Stanley Cup Finals to still have some semblance of legitimacy. One thing that I've said in the past, but I'm changing my mind on now, is that the Stanley Cup winner this year will have an asterisk. No, I disagree with that now, and I'm going to tell you why. There's more of a barrier to get in there now. You have more of a barrier with the addition of a 5th round, the qualifying round. I understand that the top 4 teams are getting into the playoffs no matter what. I get that. But they're not going to get the best seeding if there's a reseeding. If there's a fixed bracket, yeah, that's kind of dicey. But if there's a reseeding, they're not. The round-robin tournament that they're having the top 4 teams in each conference play is essentially the same as giving the 4 seed a chance to run the table and make a crazy run. I don't mind that. I actually think that's really fair. No, I don't think there's going to be an asterisk. For clarity's sake, I'll give you the Eastern Conference teams now in order. It's the Bruins, the Lightning, the Capitals, the Flyers. They're automatically in the playoffs. They just have to play in that round-robin tournament. The teams that have to play in the qualifying round are the Penguins, Hurricanes, Islanders, Maple Leafs, Blue Jackets, Panthers, Rangers, and Canadiens in that order. The Penguins will play the Canadiens in the qualifying round. The Hurricanes will play the Rangers. The Islanders will play the Panthers in a rematch from 2016. And the Maple Leafs will play the Blue Jackets. In the Western Conference, you have the Blues, Avalanche, Golden Knights, and Stars, all in that round-robin tournament. Teams 5 through 12 in order are the Oilers, Predators, Canucks, Flames, Jets, Wild, Coyotes, and Blackhawks. So in the qualifying round, you'll have the Oilers go up against the Blackhawks. The Predators will go up against the Coyotes. The Canucks will go up against the Wild. And the Flames will go up against the Jets. All in all, I like this plan to return to play. It makes sense. I think it gives the bubble teams a real chance to get into the playoffs. I mean, as an Islander fan, I'll tell you, I wouldn't have liked it if my team was screwed out of a playoff spot. Even though they weren't playing like a playoff team at the time of the pause, they still could have gotten something together and made it in. So I think the NHL did a great job here, and I think that they did the really smart thing by stopping the regular season here. It's what the NBA should do. Just go straight to the playoffs. Have a shortened playoffs. The NHL may do it. The NBA should. In fact, both leagues should. Okay, now on to the draft lottery. And this is really, really confusing. So, run with me on this. On June 26th, prior to the qualifying round, 3 teams will be picked. The first team drawn will get the first overall pick. The second team drawn will get the second overall pick. And the third team drawn will get the third overall pick. The odds for those teams were determined by points percentage as of right now. Now, there will be 15 teams to pick from. So you're getting the 7 teams that aren't going to play in the qualifying round. The Red Wings, the Senators, the Sharks, although the Senators have their pick, the Kings, the Ducks, the Devils, and the Sabres all represented here. But you have the 8 teams that are going to be knocked out of the qualifying round represented here by letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Which means that a team that made the qualifying round and pushed that series to a 5th game and it went into double overtime and they lost on a fluky goal, that team theoretically could pick Alexis Lafreniere. Granted, I don't know the first thing about him, but everyone's saying he's going to be a great player, so hey, wisdom of the crowd. If none of the placeholders get a top 3 spot, then we have nothing to worry about. Picks 4 to 7 will go to the named bottom dwellers. This is from Ryan Kennedy of the Hockey News, by the way. The named bottom dwellers in inverse order of their regular season points percentage. So the Red Wings are guaranteed to have at least the 4th overall pick. They can't fall any more than 4. That's ironclad, set in stone. The Red Wings are picking at least 4th. If a placeholder team gets 1 or more of the top 3, well, we have an issue here. There will be another lottery consisting of the 8 qualifying round losers. Only those teams will participate. Each team will have the same odds, so that's 12.5%, I think. When those 3 top picks are established, the remaining 12 selections will be slotted based on inverse points percentage. So, don't think of the placeholder teams as specific teams. Think of them as wildcards. And the wild card will be made up of one of the 8 qualifying round losers. That'll be the same if 2 of the placeholders are picked, 3 of the placeholders are picked. It's the exact same thing. I gotta tell ya, I really don't like this. For starters, it's way too complicated. By the way, if I still didn't make it clear, and I don't even know if I did, if I didn't make it clear, you can tweet at me, at RealJacobValk, and I'll do my best to explain it. Smarter minds than me have tried to explain it, so you can also just Google it. Regardless, I really don't like this. It's way too complicated. And also that fluky goal scenario. There's a chance that a really good team ends up with Lafreniere here. Now, I understand that would have been the same thing if we had finished the regular season. That the team that just missed out on the playoffs by 1 point could have gotten Lafreniere. But the regular season is over now. Bettman said so. So the qualifying round participants are in the playoffs. Those stats will be counted as playoff stats. You're giving a playoff team a chance to win the lottery. And by the way, this lottery is only for the top 3. If hypothetically it's the Red Wings, Kings, and Devils in that order, Red Wings 1, Kings 2, Devils 3, that means that the Senators are getting 4. They're also getting 5 because they have the Sharks pick. The Ducks are getting 6. The Sabres are getting 7. And the qualifying round loser with the worst regular season points percentage will get 8. And then it goes up from there. I just don't understand how you can give a qualifying round loser a top 3 pick. That shouldn't work. This is the playoffs. The Rangers are in the playoffs. The Coyotes are in the playoffs. You should have just conducted a lottery of the 7 teams that we know aren't going to play again this year. And then, when the qualifying round is over, do a second lottery consisting of the qualifying round losers with the odds determined by regular season points percentage. And those teams are vying for 8 through 15. That's the best way to do it. If you really don't want to count the qualifying round as the true playoffs, that's the best way to do it. Quite frankly, I wouldn't even have a lottery for the qualifying round losers. As far as I'm concerned, these are the playoffs. It's done. If the Islanders lose in the qualifying round, they shouldn't have the opportunity to pick Lafreniere. Now, I'm glad they do. Don't get me wrong. If the Islanders lose, it's a damn good consolation prize to get Alexis Lafreniere, or Quentin Byfield, or any one of the top guys. From what I've heard, this is a stacked class. I just think the NHL is making this way too complicated. They're giving playoff teams, make no mistake about it, the qualifying round participants are in the playoffs. They're giving those teams a chance at a top 3 pick. That's wrong. But I understand that this is a tricky situation. For the most part, I agree with Bettman's plan. I like Gary Bettman a lot. I think he gets a bad rap. He's a really nice guy. I've actually met him. And the thing that he made clear, and this is 100% true, we need to do this safely. We can't throw caution to the wind and throw these players back into an unsafe situation. This has to be done safely with the assistance of state governments and the federal government. And all in all, I think we'll get through this. I think, I'm not sure, but I think the NFL will have fans in the stands on opening day. Tomorrow it probably won't be this exciting. Probably the trifecta again. I love doing the trifecta, but I like talking about actual sports news more. Until then, I am Jacob Valk saying that you know you've got it made when you get your name in the crossword puzzle.